have a commenter here who wants me to talk about jealousy in friendships after a particular post went viral. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. She says, if you're willing, can you please address the topic of jealousy in female friendships? There's been an ongoing discourse on TikTok this past week regarding a girl who posted about how she distanced herself from a friend whom she was jealous of. And it's quite interesting to see that many people categorize jealousy as a normal human emotion, whereas others say that it's rooted in hate. I've noticed that the more successful I've become, the more I've had fallouts with friends who were previously close to me, but have started to display very strange and sometimes harmful behavior towards me. I realize that the more I level up in life, the smaller my circle has to be. Yep. So absolutely. So I don't. I'll go out on a limb here and say my opinion. I don't think jealousy is. Everybody doesn't have jealousy, for example. So everybody doesn't have that emotion and aren't jealous of other people. So to say that it's normal, everybody's jealous, and all that kind of stuff, I don't agree with that. And I've known some people who aren't ever jealous of anyone. So I'll go ahead and put that out there. With that being said, though, it can be normal, meaning that a lot of people do have that emotion. And I've done posts on here before, as well as on my podcast, where I've also talked about jealousy. To a lengthier degree. So the one thing that I've also talked about success and envy, and I think that's more of what you may be experiencing is envy. And so when you think about success, in my opinion, my professional opinion and my experience, envy is most is closely aligned with success. So I think when you have success, you are going to experience envy. I have not met a person yet who has not experienced that. I think also too, as you go through life, you become successful and you start to get yourself together. The natural discourse is to have friendship shedding, and maybe even family shedding as well. That's a natural discourse. I don't know if I know of a truly successful person who has a huge crowd of friends. And you could be successful outside of money and material things and things like that. So success can come in all forms of abundance. But most people, when they start to become abundant, your circle becomes smaller because the value becomes quality over quantity. And when you have quantity, most people who may have started out with a large group of people, you most likely are going to have a Judas or several Judases within your circle. And the more you elevate, the more apparent that's going to become. And if you're not careful, if you don't catch it or you dismiss it or you minimize it, there will ultimately be a price to pay for those who overlook it or dismiss it or explain it away and say, oh, that's just who so and so is. And that, ultimately there is a price to pay for that. Most women can tell, or most people can tell, when a friend is envious or is jealous of them, whether or not you say it explicitly or not. You will show it in your actions by the way that you show up, by your silence. When they have wins and things that they enjoy sharing with you, if you're silent, if you make faces, if you give those backhanded compliments, negging, all sorts of ways in which this can show up. Most people who are jealous and envious never ever are as good at hiding it as they would like to think themselves to be. And if you have a person that continues to stay with you in spite of this, it's usually because of history. They feel guilty, shedding you as a friend, or they may like to, continue to show up and show you their success anyway, in spite of. And jealousy and envy is usually with people who are watching and monitoring closely. And when you start to look at envy, envy is like, I am jealous of your success and I don't want you to have it either. So that's the step that envy takes, in addition to jealousy. And when someone is envious, to me, I think that's a dangerous emotion. Most people are usually just unable to sit with that. And I'm just envious of her and, la 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 la. And I'm gonna continue to show up in spite envious. No, envy usually turns into danger. When people start watching, obsessing, stalking, pocket watching, you know, wanting to sabotage what you have and wanting to sabotage the friendship, and or wanting to switch, right, take what you have and have it for themselves, and they're wondering, why do you get to be the one who is successful or abundant? Why not me? I should be the one. And there's been several celebrities who have had envious people around them that they did not shed, and unfortunately, they've lost their lives with it. They've lost money from it, or it's cost them in a big way. And I think a large part of the discourse from TikTok that came out, as a result of the video, is because there was a minimization of it. And there was all these accolades for someone who's admitting it. And admitting it is fine, but let's not minimize the toxicity of that emotion and how that may have affected or impacted both yourself and the friendship. And most people who are jealous, are insecure. That's where it comes from, is fear and insecurity, and also not minding your own business enough, right? Because usually when you are jealous, you're paying more attention to what somebody else has and why you don't have it, and comparing yourself, as opposed to focusing on your own stuff, which is also one of the reasons why I say everybody's not jealous, because you have a lot of people out there who are in their own world, doing their own thing, and therefore they have no reason to be jealous, because they're only competing against themselves. It's me versus me versus some girlfriend who got married and had kids and blah 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 blah. So everyone's not thinking like that, right? I also think that people tend to say that it's very normal because it's often what happens on social media. There are a lot more people, and I think this is kind of an admission of what we've seen in those posts. There are a lot more people that have parasocial relationships with the people that they see on social media. And so like when people see, someone on social media and they look up to them, they wonder how they got what they got. They too also want to be an influencer. They too want to have all these things like the person they're seeing on social media. I want to have a relationship like that. I want those clothes that are like that. That has become a normalized culture for many who buy into the social media image, who buy into the thought that, hey, I can get brand deals and I can make thousands and millions of dollars and I could have this life where I don't have to have a traditional job. And so it's normal for me to look up to an influencer. That's essentially what influencer culture is, actually. It's me, doing this fantasy work and having all of these people look up to me who want to be like me and who want to use the products that I use, wear the clothes that I wear, get their hair done the way that I do in order to get the same desired result. That is what influencer is. And a lot of people, who look up to influencers in that way, they're really in for a rude awakening, because there's a whole life and culture that goes on behind the screens that they don't even know about. Not to mention, a lot of it can be smoke and mirrors. Not all the time, but a lot of it can be. So I hope this helps to explain some of the questions that you may have. But when you have a friend that's jealous, you need to back up and give it space. You need to move around. When you are elevating yourself, you need to shed all the quantity, and move towards quality, people that are aligned and yoked as equally as you. And you want to be careful with that. Everybody can't go with you when you're going up. Hope that helps. Thanks so much. And to be honest, you won't even have time for